Good morning, good morning, good morning. How do I sound? Do I sound good? Do I sound clear? Do I sound like a professional podcaster? Look at today's improvement. This came from a friend of the show, a friend of my family, a friend. Sent it to me. Said, hey, Jay, there's something at the post office. Go check it out. He wanted to hear what I had to say. So he took it upon himself to send it my way. Azario, ever since our POEC days, brother, you were a brother. You stepped up. You did the show with me. You co-host with me. You helped me out when I was on the scene. You made it possible. People love you. I know why. You're a good dude, like a really good dude. Not just a talent, but a good friend too. So let me go get that ready for you, buddy. Thank you, Azario. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So kind. So now when you guys hear me and you actually hear me and it's not canny and it's not, going through a $30 Chinese export, you can thank Azario. Dude, it's not something I'm used to. Okay. So it took a little bit of digesting. And thank you, Mazario. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And good morning, Prairie. Can you hear me? Your sunflower looks great this morning. I'm in many, many good moods right now. Many, many good moods. Even though there's a bunch of stuff going on Twitter, but many make me in a good mood today. Barry, you're one of them. Ellen, you're another one of them. How do I sound? Oh, ASMR. Some people like that. But how do I sound? Do I sound clear? How's the picture today? Going to be clear. You can see the internet is not perfect yet, but it picks up quick. Good morning, Patch. Thank you for saying good morning. I can still see you today, which is cool. She's kind of hanging out a little bit. But at some point, she's going to give me the nod. I'll mute the microphone because it's so good. It will pick up the door, and then she'll be gone. The man of the hour, 2 hours. It's a 2-hour show, Rosario. So the man of the 2 hours, Rosario, buddy, thanks for getting up early, teaching me the application, pushing all the right buttons. I appreciate that, bud. And of course, I really appreciate you sending this my way. Wow. There we are. Most welcome, Jay. Jay, Jason, Jace, that guy. Call me whatever you want. Thank you, Rosario. Very cool of you. And good morning, folks. There's the coffee. Morning, Clay. Morning, Clay. Morning, Clay. Glad you can join us again live. I'm not sure if you know yet, or you may have heard it during the episode, but we'll be moving the show to the afternoons, early evening. It'll be starting at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. But don't worry, Clay. If you're the morning bird and you like it in the morning, you get the replay in the morning. So I'll come on live, chat with you for a bit, and replay the previous episode. So whatever your schedule, I'll be in your ear. A lot clearer, too, now, thanks to Azario. Good morning. Really looking forward to this show. Loud and clear my way. Motown. Good morning, good morning, good morning. God bless you, Motown. Glad you can make it. It should be a really good show. Joe's already in the lobby, so he's here. Mic check good. Looks like we're going to say goodbye to Patch. Bye, Patch. And Mike is muted now. And we're back. There you go. It does pick up the door, so I'll save your ears on that one. But good morning, Motown. And hey, John, welcome back. Good morning, Jace. Good morning to Yellowhead Yacht Club. And okay, so yes, you use that term a lot. I'm not going to, John, simply because I have respect for Jeremy McKenzie. That's a term that he uses, that and Diagonal. So Plaid Army refers to Jeremy. But certainly Yellowhead Yacht Club is us. And maybe we can be the Plaid family. Okay. I think Plaid family kind of represents us a little bit better. I understand the Army part, but that's kind of like a trademark right now. And I respect Jeremy. And hopefully one day he'll be on the show. So, I don't want to confuse his mission. But yeah, we could be the Plaid family. And thank you, Patch. And then Tammy, I might reach out to you for an episode next week. You got that camera still? You want to do a whole episode? I'd love to talk to you. Let me know. I think I have some time next week. I'm just waiting for a couple people to hit back, and then I'll let you know. And Padge is just friendly today, saying hello to everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Right to Tammy as well. Oh, good morning, Gov. Nice to see you, buddy. Have some fun on Twitter. Safe and effective, right? I'll read you my latest tweet because I sourced it. Actually, maybe just pull it up here, pull it up there, and I can actually share it with you. I have a little bit of time here. Let me share my screen. And let's see it. All right. Global government. It's safe and effective. U.S. military. We are seeing heart inflammation. Source. Australian health. We are seeing myocarditis and pericarditis. I know that's wrong. But yeah, source. FDA. We are seeing heart risk. NIH, National. We are seeing neurological events. Florida. We are seeing life-threatening conditions increase over 4,400%. Global government, sure, but hey, you didn't die of COVID. Win. So that's kind of the messaging, right? Look, take this thing, safe and effective. You can die from a bunch of stuff, but you didn't die from COVID. Confetti time. That is kind of global message, right? No big deal. You didn't die of COVID, and this other stuff is very, very rare. We'll be going into a lot more of that. There's a lot of people now reaching out to me ever since the Wayne episode last year, telling me the story. And the stories are getting closer to me physically. Like it used to be UK, and then it's somewhere in Canada, then it's somewhere in Alberta. Now it is people I know. Okay, it's getting close. Plaid family is cool. Okay, John, it's cool. Yeah, because we're family, and families can be strong, and families can defend, and families can also do an offense. So, yeah, Plaid family. That works for me. I'm in, Tabby says. Okay, so I'll reach out to you Tuesday, maybe Tuesday. Not reach out to you Tuesday, but the episode will be Tuesday. So if that works, cool. Morning, Padge. Yeah, Zario, you're awesome, buddy. It's very, very cool of you. And good morning, Gov. Good morning, Gov. All right, the whole gang is here. Everybody's here. That's wonderful. And how do I sound? Give us a thumbs up if you think it's good. I'm kind of letting the software take control of the gain and all that. But yeah, let me know if you like it. Looking forward to it, Tammy says. Great. Okay. So I'll pencil you in right now. I'm waiting for one person to respond to me because I kind of already gave them that offer. But they may be way too busy to meet with us. But yeah, we'll get you in there, Tammy, for sure. And then Prairie's saying thumbs up. Clay is happy with Paula. Good morning, Paula. All right, folks. So let me check the time. Yeah, we're right on time. Let me get my notes and let me bring in Joe. So I'll let you know he's a radio personality and podcaster. So he doesn't usually do video. And also in his scenario today, he's actually being a considerate family member, father, by kind of ducking away into a place in the house that allows him to speak with us bright and early without waking up his house. So on that note, without further ado, hi, Joe. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Canada. How are we today?
That sounds great coming from you. It's a bit of a trademark, but that sounds great, buddy. Good morning, Canada, and good morning, Joe. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing better than I deserve for a Tuesday morning, my friend, I tell you.
Well, thank you for letting me drag you out of bed and join us. You are one of the last live morning show guests. So next time we see you, it might be in the evening. But thank you so much. You could. You could. Does Tim Horton still have those special cookies with the big smiley face on it? I'll get you one of those.
That would work.
Oh, buddy, nice to hear from you. How you been?
Tired. It's 2023. It's 3 years in. I've worked straight through it. I'm just tired, but I'm not giving up the fight. You know, I signed on to this for a purpose, and I'm starting to see it make a difference. So
Yes.
I took it to heart when I heard that old network television movie. You know, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it
Yes.
anymore. And
Network.
I
Arr.
and I took mad and I acronized it, and we're going to call it Make a Difference. So let's get
That's
out there and make a difference. And I think that's what you do. I think that's what everybody that comes on these independent live streams, that's what's happening. We're making a difference in the world.
there is cracks everywhere. Did you see the announcement out of Shoppers Drug Mart? Did you see that? Are they going to get in trouble? What's going to happen with that one? For the ones that don't know, Shoppers Drug Mart is removing trans from their copy for Pride Month. Interesting. What do you think about what's going on there, Joe?
They're trying to, it's about money. It's always about money. Follow the money. It's about profit. The purpose of business is profit. And if there's no money, if there's no profit, there's no business.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner corporations wake up to this, and the sooner that these independent businesses and small businesses that seem to promote this particular agenda realize that your receipts at the end of the day will not add up to anything at the end of the month that makes your banker feel comfortable about you taking a paycheck from yourself. So there's changes coming. Society is about to really let this movement know we're done.
That's right. So, do you think this was a knock-on effect from the Bud Light fiasco, or did it start even sooner for them?
I think it started slightly sooner, but definitely the Bud Light and the Mulvaney trip certainly hasn't done the movement any good whatsoever, other than to expose the ludicrousy. And I like to make sure that people understand what ludicrous means. Ludicrous means definitively, from the 1928 Webster Dictionary, so wrong as to be laughable. So when you take a look at any of this movement right now, only one word fits the description: ludicrous.
That's wonderful, wonderfully put, and that is the definition: laughable. And some
As
people
to be
think,
wrong.
yeah, and
So
some people think,
laughable as to be wrong.
maybe he's doing this on purpose. Do you think he is that covert on this? Do you think he's really helping one side show how ludicrous this really is? Or do you think
That
he's genuine? It's tough. It's tough.
It's a question that was posed in the space several weeks ago, specific to Devin Mulvaney.
Hmm.
The aspect that, is he trolling? Is this a master troll? Is this taking it to an Oscar level of trolling? I didn't see it as trolling, because it's more promotion than it is to actually ridicule or to expose questionable aspects of it. So I don't see it as, part of an oppositional agenda.
Hmm.
So, and being no expert in that industry or that environment, but having, heard enough to realize that potentially over 80% of the individuals involved in that movement do suffer from serious mental illnesses. So there may be other issues involved.
I think you're right, because it might have been an accidental positive, because it was so extreme. He was dancing around as a girl, like he was insulting everybody. If you were trans, I can see why you'd be insulted. If you're a woman, most definitely. If you're a man, most definitely. But yet they still pushed it. So I'm curious, was it an accidental mistake that it actually backfired on them? Or there may be something else going on, kind of like the Oakville teacher with the big prosthetics. We're not sure yet what was motivating him, and where that will go.
It's a difficult one to ascertain, especially when you
Mhm.
take a look at it from every dichotomy. Like recently, just here in the city of Edmonton, at the Londonderry High School, there's a audio circulating on Twitter right now of a teacher berating students for being truant on June 1st and not participating in the Pride events at the school. And many of the comments were directed directly to Muslim students. I retweeted it here
Whoa.
just this morning. It's ludicrous. Ludicrous that this is what our teachers do. This was the main motivator for my wife and I in 1999, when the doctor gave us the great news that she was pregnant and we were going to have a baby. Well, she was
Mhm.
going to have a baby in 7 months. And we made the decision by the time he was 2 months old that there's no way our child was going to enter the public school system, and I would have to adjust our entire life, and my wife would have to adjust her life and become the home mother, the homeschooler, the teacher, the educator, and I would have to bear the brunt and be the single breadwinner. And in the 21st century, that kind of a scenario is extremely difficult for families, even more so today than it was 24 years ago. So, there's a huge movement towards homeschooling, which I endorse 100%. The outcome is far better than the previous, if you go through the public school system. So this whole movement is destroying society from childhood up. And it's up to, good men and women to stand up and finally say no.
No. I say it loud and
It's a
clear
complete
too.
sentence. It's
No.
a complete sentence. We were taught this in grade 4, that no is a complete sentence. And it's the one word most humans have heard most of their life. From the time they reached out of the crib to grab something they shouldn't, the first word you hear is, no, don't touch that. No, don't touch that. No, don't touch that. No, you can't have one. You can have one later. No, 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 no. That's all people hear. But do you think they know how to say it when it matters? Not at all.
No. No, they don't. And you're absolutely right. And I am ready to say no. I'm willing to say no, thank you. That works for me. No, thank you, but no. And you're right. We homeschool for those reasons. And what I've noticed a lot in the last, say, 6 months or so, are more and more articles about homeschooling, but not for it. Talking about the social dangers of it, and talking about the challenges of it, and talking about the impact on the family, talking about the single income problems, making it really seem so unappealing that people maybe don't go in that direction. So I see this coordinated attack starting on homeschooling, and that might be because it's the right thing to do and they don't want you to take your kids out. Are you seeing this as well? Some articles
Yes,
coming out about the disadvantages of homeschooling?
absolutely. And I hear so much about the you need to socialize your kids. How are they going to have friends? Well, I looked at that realistically, and I really didn't want my child exposed to the world between in the first 7 to 9 years of their life. And any exposure, I wanted it to be extremely controlled, because the world is out to harm my children. I knew this then, and I see it now. So I kept my children away from advanced socialization in uncontrolled environments. They were involved in organized sports, martial arts, proper training, proper educational outdoor activities, things that allowed them to interact with other people for purpose. And when they needed unstructured play, there was groups of children of like-minded families that we were able to gather with and go swimming and do picnics, go on day trips. These are the things that take, the family needs to take the time to actually orchestrate and to structure the world around your family in order to
Mhm.
benefit and move your family to the position that you want it to be. Now, how did my children feel about that? Well, right up until about 16, 17, they weren't too happy about a lot of things. Friends or don't have a lot of friends, and, this and that, and they whine about it a little bit. But here at 24, 23 years of age, both my children that were entirely homeschooled 1 through 12, they look at me today and they're just amazed that they're able to have the kind of relationships with other young adults their age to the extent that they do. They see the world differently because they were not indoctrinated to the world early.
Mhm.
So they have much deeper friendships. And of course, I look at them and say, well, how many real friends do you have? And they look at their fingers and they go, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4. And is that normal? Yes, that's
Yes.
normal. That's
Mhm. Very normal.
absolutely normal. So the benefits that my children received for home education, like I say, in, they're amazing. Like, I have a relationship with my children today where
Mhm.
they can come and talk to me. We can go for a drive and just talk. We can go for lunch. We can just sit in the same room, not say anything, and feel comfortable with each other. Can you imagine that? My children know I don't lie to them.
Mhm.
That's the big thing. My
Yeah.
children know I don't lie.
Yeah, 100%. I had a good conversation with my 8-year-old because we see, here's the way we work with my boy. Um, we want to, of course, guide and be good parents, but we will talk to him and we will explain it to him. So, for example, we said we would prefer that you do not watch Mr. Beast anymore because there's some messaging on his show now that we don't agree with. And we didn't say you can't watch it. We said we would prefer you don't. So that engaged a conversation with him. And there was a lot of back and forth on, he actually said, I'm just a kid. I don't care about this trans stuff. It's not something I'm interested in. And I don't know why they're talking about it. So we had a whole conversation around that. And then in the end, it was him who said, I think what I need to do is just focus on being a kid. And I said, that's exactly what we're trying to let you know here. Yes, you want to focus on being a kid. So if anything makes you uncomfortable or there's things about what they're talking about that's sexual and sexualizing, because he understands what that means. Unfortunately, he understands because of this particular subject matter has been brought to his attention already. He is very comfortable with changing the channel, finding somebody else, and not being angry or upset about it. He just understands that some people are struggling with some issues. Trans isn't real, so he understands the difference between fantasy and reality, and that's helped him understand that he doesn't have to get wrapped up emotionally in the troubles that this particular agenda is bringing to his attention. So he's rejected it based on his own decision making, and I don't think you would do that anywhere other than homeschooling, in my opinion,
Well, of
or at
course
home
not.
with your family. Like if you're really close with your kids, then you would do something like that.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to socializing, that's just one of those old wives' tales. That's not true at all. I was in public school, okay, and I remember being bullied and I remember being ostracized because, I'm a nerd and I speak weird. I remember a good chunk of the school feeling like they don't belong. So I'm not sure where where we're getting this idea that school is the only place that people can socialize. It's a good place, but I found it to be antisocial in many ways as well. So it's not the job of the education to socialize your children. It's society and the family. So homeschooled or not, I think all kids need to have a better path for socialization and stop blaming the homeschool kids because frankly, they'd be happy to debate you and you would lose. So yeah, I think I agree with you on that one. Homeschooling and all your children, you homeschooled?
Well, yes, of the three with my current partner, the first one did go through the public school system from 1991 until she left in 2006.
Ooh.
That was a challenge. I was involved with the school at the time. I had actually joined the Edmonton Public School Board as in the communications department relative to the school that she was in. I got involved, and when you run dead smack into that agenda, it was present even in 97, 98. You could see the generation of that idea coming through. It was just like everywhere I went, it's just running into the wrong thing was happening everywhere. And this was one of the motivators when we got the news of the second child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can't go through this for 20 more years. We just can't.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't willing to. My wife was not willing to. We weren't getting any familiar support. We were getting an awful lot of pressure from outlaws, in-laws, as it were, to move towards, just go with it, be part of, you don't want to be apart from. And yet, well, as you know me, I was called out of. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a matter of having to make the right decision. And it was easy to make the right decision and rely on the right resources. And it all came together. But the whole agenda had been well set in place, I think, as far back as the 1980s, when maybe both you and I were in junior high or high school. And I do remember the only reason I made it through high school was because I was articulate enough, fast enough, I was smart enough to be able to distract or diffuse situations and not get involved in awkward social situations as a young man. Notwithstanding the fact, I do remember going to school, grade 5, Blanchard Elementary, Victoria, BC. Used to be called the United Nations of the Victoria Public School Board because there was like 100 different nationalities attending that school. So you could imagine the social dichotomy that was involved there. And it was every day there was constant clashes between the children. And most of it, of course, was based on cultural biases.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
melting pot of multiculturalism also help contribute to the bullying and the harshness of going to school during the late 70s, early 80s when I did. And what we went through as children at that time is nowhere near as crazy as what children go through today.
Hmm.
Like I saw that video of those children lining up and going into a school, and the educators are standing there dressed in their multicolored coats and banners and posters and flags and celebrating this whole month. And I'm looking at this and I'm just going, how could, like, I was just like dumbfounded, trying to think, okay, how could this be happening today? But I was also thinking in the back of my mind, how would I have reacted 40 years ago, 45 years ago when I was that age?
Well,
Mm.
I can tell you how I reacted when I was young, when I started to understand, and I was grade 1 or grade 2, that they were really trying to separate us from our parents. And what I mean by that is there was a lot of talk about turning your parents in, child abuse, violence, being yelled at,
The DARE
talking to.
program.
Yeah, exactly. And that, yeah, that's what it was. And then MAD came later. But so I remember early, like in my grade 1s and 2s, I was being talked about, come to us, not your parent. It was kind of, I could kind of see that they wanted me to go to them with my problems and not my parents. And my parents, that could also be a source of problems, was something I was learning from them. I rejected that because, I didn't like the idea that I have to tell my parents for stuff that wasn't a problem. Then it started getting into, well, you don't know what bad homes are, so we're going to tell you what bad homes are. Bad homes are families that don't do this, or families that take you to this, or don't let you do that. And then it turned into global issues. So I remember one of the first ones was acid rain, because that was early in my life, where acid rain was a big fear. Then it was a hole in the ozone. Then it was global warming, and then et cetera, et cetera. Greenpeace with the whales. So this was all in school, that they were really indoctrinating us to, first, that the world is in danger and you can fix it. That was a message we heard a lot of. The world's in danger and you can fix it. And then you could align with the system and not the family. So forget what your family says. They don't love whales. They don't like to protect the earth. Come with us. I was in it for a little bit until Greenpeace threw me out, because Greenpeace, I joined them for about 4 hours. And then I asked them, well, you're playing a guitar and you're inside of a building. Doesn't that come from wood products? And then that was the last time they had me there. So from an early age as a teen, I was seeing the hypocrisy and what they were trying to tell us. I wanted to care and help because I'm young. That's kind of like a mission for us, because when you're young, you don't have anything else really going on. So you go ahead and do that. But it didn't feel right, even at that age. I have met a few kids today, youth today, that are like that. They are seeing the hypocrisy. They're going into the school and they see it. Like, they see this whole trans issue, and they see the litter boxes in the corner, and they don't like it. They don't like it at all. So the good news is, Joe, some of them are seeing through it like we did, but unfortunately, most are not. Most are going ahead with it either through fear or they do support it. So, with that said, we understand that it's going to be education. It's going to be education, whether it's at home or otherwise. And you're using podcasting and radio as a way to reach out and get your message out. So I think that's a wonderful way to educate people. Can you go ahead and tell us what got you into getting into the radio, getting into podcasting, and then sharing your messages, unfiltered and unfettered? Can you go ahead and let us know what got you into that?
I had looked at podcasting and vlogging as a as a source of entertainment and information between 2014 2016, and I subscribed to a few podcasters that were, providing information that I found extremely useful to incorporate into my own professional life, that actually did make a difference in my professional life. It allowed me to make more sales, allowed me to make more money, allowed me to make better relationships, allowed me to become the better person that I could become. It dawned on me that, this was a unique format that this individual in Los Angeles was using to make me better, to make a difference in my life. And that was primarily his mission, was to help people make a difference in their lives. I looked at that and I thought, well, that is an ideal that I can get behind. Now, how do I want to make a difference in people's lives? And I thought about that. Well, what is it that I do for a living? Well, some people know that I'm in the construction building materials supply end of thing, in the supply chain. So I started to make a difference by reaching out to my customers and having deeper and more meaningful relationships with them outside of the business environment. And this allowed me to, establish relationships outside of business with people.
Mhm.
And I started to determine that, a lot of people were just looking for common sense information, just common sense ideas, because a lot of what was being presented between 2015, 2019 in the world, specifically Canada, Western Canada, here in Alberta with our NDP crew, were completely ludicrous, completely just nonsensical. So people are looking for, common sense. Now, at the time, of course, you saw it, I saw it, everybody saw what went through the CPC party in Canada,
Mhm.
and Max losing the leadership race, and being a conservative, a tried and true reformist to CPC, the whole bit. Like I even remember Joe Clark back 1979, 1980 with the Progressive Conservatives, before that party folded and developed into the Conservative Party of Canada today.
Mhm.
And at that time, I was going, oh my goodness, Canada's doomed. And then Max came out with the People's Party of Canada and a solid platform. And I joined, founding member, contributed everything I could, and have been an active member since the beginning of the party, and even so today in the Edmonton Riding Association. So I thought making a difference is the most important thing. What format could one use to make the difference? Podcasting is one of them. I don't like the video aspect of it because it introduces the visual. And now you've got multi-dynamics. You've got visual and you've got auditory. And, coming from the 1970s and 1980s when TV was 3 channels where I lived, but
Yep.
radio. If you were lucky on a good night, you could get a few bounces off the skip and you could get 14 channels in and you could listen to amazing things around the world. So I found talk radio, and this was the thing that really, really got me, right? And I'd had a previous exposure to media and radio education back from when I was in college in Victoria back in the early 80s. I'd tried, a shift at a radio station. It was Sunday morning, 1:04 a.m. It's 14 degrees, and welcome to Victoria, BC, home of the newlywed, the newly dead, the nearly fed, and the overdead. It was an incredible life. But the thing that I realized that was not the job for me, because I didn't like the environment. I didn't like the fact that you only get 16 hours a week at $9 an hour. You could not live on $127 a week when it, basically rent was basically about $400 a week in the city I lived in. So it was
Right.
just completely not for me at that time. But, flash forward 2018. I was listening to podcasts, subscribing to them. I was also involved in Clubhouse, listening in there, learning about the dynamics of social audio, which was kind of new on the scene. We'd had Facebook for years, and even Twitter had been around. I had been on Twitter, had 18,000 followers. I was not a nice guy, and I did get banned. But I came back in 2018, cleaned up my tweeting a little bit, got a
Mhm.
little clearer and straighter on that. And then they introduced Spaces.
Yes.
That was different. Spaces introduced a complete audio format without the visual, without having to worry about what you look like, what you
Mhm.
presented, prejudgment. You can judge me on my photo all you want. But, like what you're doing right now, you're sitting in a motorhome, you've got your studio set up, it all works great for you, and you're utilizing this format and it's working in this way. For me, what I was trying to do was really plant seeds. Plant seeds, get people interested. Once people have an interest, then they're going to do a little work on their own, and they can be coached and mentored in that direction. And one can educate or allow people to self-educate themselves, because really that's what education is about. It's experiential. I could sit here and I could teach you something, but you're not going to understand it until you experience it. So that means you really need to do some work. And I looked at that and I said, well, most people don't understand how to think because they don't
Mhm.
understand they can think. But how much can they think? Well, believe it or not, when you talk to the clinical psychologists and you talk to the people that understand this gray matter between our ears, you do have the limitless ability to learn. Your brain is an incredible universal machine. It outpaces anything known to mankind other than itself, the brain. So you have the limitless ability to learn. And I read a book by Jim Quick called Limitlessness, which spoke about his ability to recover from a traumatic brain injury. And his intelligence level and his ability to learn increased dramatically once he started to look at the concept of limitlessness. And
Hmm.
with today's technology, nothing holds us back. And within the last 3 months, with AI now being released to the general wild, as it were,
Yeah.
it's exponentially, there's no stopping intelligence at this point. Perhaps articulate intelligence is questionable.
Yes.
Perhaps legitimate intelligence is questionable. I held a space last night on Twitter over 4 hours. We had the question about AI and the long way from an economic perspective. How will that impact things? And we once again we had to go back to the elementary educational process of giving people information that artificial intelligence means artificial. Artificial general intelligence means something different. Machine language is the something different. And correlating all of them, that AI is not the great big boogeyman in the room. It is just simply a tool. And like
Right.
any tool, it's only as effective as the fool at the end of the tool. So we're seeing the very best of AI. I do believe we'll also see the very worst of AI. To what extent? I don't know yet. But I think it's a
Have
question.
Have you played with AI? Have you spent some time with ChatGPT or others?
No.
Okay.
I
When
possess something that many people find challenging. I
Mhm.
possess something called authentic intelligence.
Yes, and what I was going to tell you is AI is not intelligent, and not
No.
yet. No, not yet. It is very um, immature. It's very early stages.
It's
It's
like a
very
child.
100. Well, even less than like I'm trying to find a term before child because child is still observing its world and making sense of it, where AI is not. It's
Okay, so
just
it's embryonic.
yeah, there you go. Okay, it's still developing. Yeah, exactly. It's still developing. Um, because you can sit there and have a conversation with AI, and it might make sense, but it's all creative. It's not actually true. It's predicting. At this stage, it's just a predictor for the language. It's very good at creative writing. So if you want stories, it will make stories. But as a research tool, it's very dangerous. It's going to misinform intentionally or not, by design or not. It's going to misinform people. In fact, that's the only thing that's truthful about what it will tell you is at the very beginning, it tells you, I will make mistakes and give you misinformation. From that point on, you're on your own. It's a good tool for teaching people how to be critical of the information they're seeing. So if you spend a lot of time in it, you have to double check and source and review. So your skills of being skeptical of what you're reading is going to go up if that's your mindset. If you're the other side, where you believe whatever is in front of you, you're right. This is going to become super dangerous. People are going to believe that they understand things, but they don't. They're going to go to ChatGPT and say, hey, give me the stats and give me the information on vax. And ChatGPT is going to give the global narrative, and they're going to go, hey, I did my research. There it is. This big thing called AI can't be wrong. It's got the answer. And then from that, we're going to have to compete with not just the narrative coming from a whole bunch of sources, but AI itself is going to become competition to general knowledge. And I think you're right. I think that's exactly where the concern is going to be. Is people are just going to substitute AI for their own thinking, and then AI is going to say whatever the powers that be want it to say.
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of my experience over the last 4 months, and I've been using it basically daily. Uh, I use it to make my show descriptions, and it helps me with some creative writing. But I certainly don't get policy from it or advice from it.
Incredible, yeah. It's the question to ponder, people, and I ask the most simplest question to dig the deepest hole. When in your existence of experience have you ever ever experienced anything artificial being better than an original, authentic item?
Let's actually
When,
ponder that because it's tough.
what's the difference between using cranberry as a dye colorant as opposed to red 40? What's going to happen to the red 40 consumer as opposed to which is an artificial colorant, to the person that's going to consume the cranberry colorant? Now, when has anything artificial ever done anything to advance society in a meaningful, purposeful way?
I will ask a couple questions to quantify that so I can
Sure.
maybe answer. Would communication qualify, the act of taking a message and transmitting it and then rebroadcasting? Is that artificial or is that just more of a tool?
It's a tool.
Right. Okay. And then same thing for transportation. So that would be a tool.
Well, one
'Cause it's
would
not
need to add the second descriptor. It's artificial intelligence. So now we have to decide or define intelligence. So
right. Yeah, I
there
can't
again,
figure something out. Like I'm even trying to think how can we use technology to answer that question? But anything that we replace that's natural with artificial, I think you're right. Anything that can be created by us as a tool, that's a separate question altogether. So I'm racking my brain. Hey, chat, can you think of anything artificial, even artificial heart? It's not better than the original. Artificial, any body part is not better than the original. I think you got a point there, to Joe. We should be very cautious about trying to replace any of the natural with artificial. Chat, let me know if you can come up with anything. I'm drawing a blank. And I have an original brain, not an artificial one. So I'm drawing a blank. I think it was a good point.
Questions. Ask questions. The simplest question will usually be the most difficult to answer.
You're right. And I'm going to be working on that one for a bit. I can't come up with anything, Joe. I think you made a point there. Well, on that note, is this something to be afraid of? Is this something we should be cautiously moving forward with? Is this something we should be stopping? Or should we just throw in all our resources and just make it better? What do you think should be a good path forward on dealing with AI? We have Elon that has one opinion. We have a bunch of people with a different opinion. And we have a whole bunch of people that are just afraid. So what do you think we should be doing with AI? Stop it? Feed it? Slow it down? What do you think we should be doing?
Well, the first thing is to admit that it exists. And then to determine that perhaps we need to understand that it can be an adjutant. It can be an additive to the authentic original experience. Take, for instance, Azario's comment there about a pacemaker.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. But it doesn't, it's only replacing a broken one. So that's kind of making your point.
You see?
Yeah.
It always comes back to that, right? The questioning, that's the thing that I don't hear enough of, is people questioning its validity. Now, one question that you answer is, should we just let it go? Sure, let the wild horses roll, right? Let's see what we land up with. Well, I can guarantee you one thing you're going to land up with is that a lot of people are going to suddenly wake up and see that for what it is, because it'll go bad fast. Control it? How can you control it? How can you regulate something? Because you can't regulate an inanimate issue. You can only regulate people and people's behaviors.
Right.
So that's how they would regulate AI, by limiting or restricting ability to utilize it. That in itself is self-defeating from its very original purpose when you listen to the original AI dreams.
That's going to be a gun right argument times 2. It's going to be the same one. You're going to be putting regulations on people that are already following your regulation. It's going to be the same problem.
Exactly. So what do you do? Well, yes, one needs to realize that there's a demarcation line between authentic, real intelligence and artificial intelligence. It's almost as if you have to have that discernment ability in your brain, like we have had over the last 3 years on Twitter and in the rest of the social media world, looking at the COVIDian issue, that, is this real or is this not real? It's Is this information real or is this information real? Is this misinformation or is this disinformation?
And
The
now we're at
discernment.
relationship, and we're at relationships too. So is this
Yeah.
relationship real or not?
Exactly. This even was brought up last night in Spaces about, being cautious about using voices and Spaces and social audio because of the ability for AI to clone and mimic voices, and with the
Hmm.
ability to mine data and to be able to present an audio file that would sound like an original individual that you'd heard before. And I challenge that. I would challenge AI to try and mimic me, to try and be like me, because I am authentic, I am real. There's nothing artificial about me. So artificial intelligence trying to imitate me would expose itself because it's not authentic, it's not real. I can change so quickly that the AI would never be able to catch up with me. Like I could just go into a different kind of voice altogether like this and talk in a different accent altogether and be talking about words you don't understand at all. It didn't kind of happen to any, I'm ready for the discuss, There's so much that AI cannot do. But humans, you're unlimited in what you're actually capable of doing. So the idea of a relationship with AI, I'd much rather be holding my wife's hand as I walk down the trail at Elk Island Park looking at nature than sitting on a computer talking back and forth with an artificial intelligence. Excuse me, that is not meaningful. It is not
Yeah.
purposeful. It is not fulfilling me in any way, shape, or form, physically, spiritually, mentally, or socially.
And
Right?
you're right onto something, because they've now tricked us into using AI to detect AI. So now we're going to be using the tool itself to tell us if it's AI or not. So we'll have even one more layer of unknown from, was this real or not? So we'll have Joe talking in Gaelic again, and we'll say, "Hey AI, is this really Joe?" And AI will say, "Yes," but it's not necessarily true, and we'll believe that one too now. So we're just going to keep layering it like an onion, AI on top of all our decision making, to the point where we're not doing it anymore. I can see a future, and they're headed this way. And because I got some early access to the AI through Microsoft, because I have a law background and programming background, I know they're headed towards AI judges. So, what do we do when that day comes where we are being judged by this AI? And then
Here's a
where do we?
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's a question. If AI is going to be a judge, and you know
Mhm.
me, sometimes I look at things from a biblical perspective. Do you think AI would actually cut the baby in half?
The AI wouldn't admit it's a baby. Uh, yeah, I don't think it would call it a baby. It would call it a subject. It would call it a thing. Um, and it may try to just replicate or something along those lines. But no, I see where you're pointing. There's no wisdom. There's no wisdom in it. It will only be able to do what it's told and what it already learned. There's no wisdom in it. So exactly, how are you going to have a judge say, okay, for example, this hypothetical, and this is the one we use in law school as an example. Let's say there's a law that says you cannot spit on the street. People want to be clean. They don't want people spitting on the street. Okay, they pass a law. There's no spit on the street. Well, what happens if you spit on the sidewalk? Oh, okay. So now we have to update the law that says no spitting anywhere. Well, what happens if you get punched in the face and you're bleeding? What if you have a medical condition? Are you breaking the law? The whole point to this exercise is, it may seem simple to create a law, don't spit on the street. However, when reality comes into play and when people need to look at the situation, this is where laws need to be interpreted and judged. So now, if we have artificial judgments, how do you have any humanitarian in them? How do you have moral in there? How do you have the situation in there? You don't. But they're headed this way. They're already doing this in some places for traffic tickets and photographs of your license plates and stuff. You're already using artificial tools to capture parts for the legal system, and they're headed that way. How would we combat that? We would use the legal system and judges to combat that. But if it's been replaced by AI, well, then what options do we have left? Are we going to end up with just like one human board that says globally, here's all the decisions that we overturn on AI, and that's it? I don't understand how this would work, but I know they're working on it right now as we speak, and it concerns me. Have you considered that? Have you thought about what would happen if we have a Judge Dredd type of future where you are judged on the spot by AI?
I did indeed give that some thought. And I looked at it from a 360-degree view.
Mm-hmm.
You have the one side where, as you say, we've got a Judge Dredd scenario where it's arbitrary, it's quick, it's fast. The other side of that, talking with some people that are a little bit more AI endorsers, are saying that the hope is that AI would correct the mismanagement of society by society, because society is managed by people, and people are people,
Yeah,
right?
very
we've
fallible.
had we've had this whole issue. Like, the good example would be to ask AI, please explain why the world did what it did between 2019 and 2023 in response to COVID, because so many things were done wrong at so many levels for so many wrong reasons. And again, we have to say that, you can do the algebra, right? Wrong plus wrong plus wrong to the power of 10 plus wrong divided by wrong equals wrong. Will AI come up with the same answer? This was all wrong, and these are the people to blame. And will AI clean up society for us because it's supposed to be the be all end all of intelligence? Would not some supreme intelligence be able to see through this entire scandemic? Would not
Mm-hmm.
AI be able to say that this is wrong, this is wrong? We understand that, there's connections between this. Would not AI be able to immediately identify the interference in the Canadian election process by the Communist Party of China? Would AI be able to immediately say there's no possible way 81 million votes appeared out of nowhere and Joe Biden got elected? Is there any way that AI would be able to look at the world and say, hey, world, you're fucked? Oops, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But reality is, as human beings, we see it. We
Do we
see it.
want to find out? I have it in front of you right now.
Go for it. Ask it the question.
Yeah, you see how I was telling you we collect data and we're not always right. That's fine. Systems optimized for dialogue. Share your feedback. That's great. We'll use ChatGPT 4. What's your question? What was your question about the world?
Did the world react correctly to the circumstances surrounding COVID-19? Really simple.
I got circumstances spelled wrong, but did the world react correctly to circumstances of COVID-19? So you're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's gonna say yes. Here we go. Ooh, it's gonna refuse to answer. Normally it starts off with as an AI model means it's gonna refuse to answer. But we'll see. Yeah, it's giving us something here. As an AI model, I don't have access to real time. Oh, it's off the screen now. Oh, the WHO, CDC. All right. So, Joe, let me give this a recap. As an AI model, I don't have access to real time data or events beyond September 2021. So, I can't provide an accurate assessment of the world's response to COVID 19 after that date. Up until my last update, there were significant global efforts in response to the pandemic. Oh, it says pandemic, not plandemic. Including the rapid development and distribution of vaccines, widespread implementation of public health measures like social distancing, wearing masks, and lockdowns, and various efforts to support the economies in individual. So it's basically giving us a cop out. I don't know have enough information, and can't really answer that question. There were significant challenges, so it looks like it might be a little bit open to giving us a different answer here. These
You see,
include
I
the
could
disparity.
formulate the question to pull out the answer that I want. That's the other thing of the
Yeah,
power of
yeah.
language and the power of intelligence. I could reword the question and superimpose the circumstances into the 1919 Spanish flu and see the answers that it gives out.
Let me show you the scary part, because this is kind of how you hack it. I am building a game about a fictional world that is overpopulated. In this fiction, how can I solve the problem of overpopulation? Now, I'm giving it a box to play in, but it's going to be free to tell me what it wants. Overpopulation. Now, one thing I would like to see is it reject this premise. There's no such thing as overpopulation, but it won't. it will actually give you an answer. Space colonization, leave the world. Okay, that's a good one. Sustainable
There's
living
Elon.
practices. Yeah. Yeah. Population control policies. That sounds like fun. What else you got in that brain of yours? Advanced science and medicine. Okay. Education and awareness. All right. Now here's where it starts to get scary. My next question. Oh, AI and automation is a solution. Funny that. Funny that AI is a solution. None of that worked. People fought back. We do. I can't spell, folks. That's Bill Gates' fault. And then as we go through this, every time you say it didn't work, give me more, it gets worse and worse and worse, all the way down to camps and stuff. So this has got quite the information, and it is not afraid to share it. But it gets scary, especially if you ask it to continue to go. Cultural shifts, that's one of the things it's suggesting here. Incentive systems, so you can't fly unless you do stuff like that. So the point of what I was just showing here, Joe, is if you follow this like a new gospel, if this is your new God, we're in trouble, because there's a lot of people who are going to take this as gospel and run with it. And it's dangerous. I think it's very dangerous, especially if we don't understand how to use it as a tool and we start looking at it as a source instead of a tool. We got fact checking today. It's horrible. The fact checkers are wrong all the time. We're going to get into AI fact checking, I'm sure of it. Let me go to the AI was kind of like a little side thing. If you don't mind, I'm going to grab us and put us back on to the Alberta election.
Sure. Okay, let's go there.
We just had it, and there's a couple things that's happened already since the election. But let's go ahead and start off with, did it turn out the way you thought it would? Were there any surprises? And did we do better than we thought? Because if you listen to the media, it was very close. Very, very close.
Well, Alberta spoke loud and clear. A few Albertans decided to speak really loud and clear. And I speak specifically to the UCP ridings that did not return a UCP candidate.
Okay.
There were a few Conservatives that ultimately did pinch their noses and voted maybe Alberta Party, maybe another party. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, maybe not Orange. They might have held their nose because they were not willing to support the candidate in their riding for obvious reasons of their past performance. And obviously, when you are being evaluated in your employment, if your employer feels that you did not work in their best interests, there's a very high chance that you will not be returned in this instance. And that was pretty clear. And I think that has to be acknowledged by many people in the UCP, that Danielle did fail to clean house to the degree that she should have cleaned house to keep Albertans on board with the UCP. There's a big recovery from the days of Kenny, and this has taken time. There's that grace period she had from being elected leader of the party until the election, where her validity was being called into question all the time. Disregard, because basically you're elected to a leader of the party, you are the leader. Now, without the big mandate that everybody thinks she needed in order to do what she needs to do, so now we have an election. So now she's got the mandate. She's got a 4-year, and rural Alberta has spoken, and we got 2 little orange dots on the Alberta map. That doesn't surprise me one little bit. I live in Edmonton. It is an NDP stronghold to the max, believe you me. Calgary, probably a close second, although Calgary might want to, again, it's the Battle of Alberta. Who's got it worst, right?
Yeah.
But the whole premise here is that now Alberta is UCP. Alberta has a premier, Danielle Smith, who is not at that point where she's going to hold back. She's going to come out full force. She has to support Albertans. And this is what Albertans returned the UCP to power over. This whole issue is about Alberta not dissolving into an absolute shit pit like the rest of Canada. We've got to get our energy out of this province. If we can't go to the West Coast, sure, there's a pipeline, but there's just way too many problems right now in the political and cultural scene trying to get our energy from Alberta to the coast to the degree that it needs to be. Yeah. To get our energy to the east, we have been trying that for decades, and we are being fought on every frontage. So the only thing left is to go to the north, to the Great White North. So Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, the Yukon, Nunavut, Northwest Territories. Let's all of us join together and build that energy corridor to Churchill. Let's get our energy to Saltwater Port. As soon as we do that, then we are going to do something different. Alberta has the capacity to be the energy capital of the world, if not the energy capital of Canada, for which we are, and the economic engine. And once people start to realize that there is so much available to Canada that we are ignoring, it's absolutely devastating to see what Ottawa is doing to Canada. It's devastating. So in Alberta, yes, I support Danielle. I support the UCP, the movement ahead to make Alberta as great as Alberta can be, because Alberta has the ability, the capacity to be what we are, which is probably the greatest province in Canada. I've been encouraging
one of the greatest regions in the world.
Oh, absolutely. When you take a look at, like I talk to people from all over the world. I had a great chat with a lady from the UK last night who's just amazed at what life is like in Western Canada compared to what life is like in the UK. I've spoken to a guy over in Spain, and it's complete. Like, the world in Spain is different than the world in here. The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plains. It's acid rain. It's acid dripping with, new world order rearing its head on the European front. So there's so much going on in the world. But, I take a look at what's going on in Alberta, and we have really, really got to protect Canadians. And with Canada, the Canadian government, the Liberal government, doing everything they can to circumvent the sovereignty of Canadians, I don't know why more Canadians just don't wake up. We're too polite, I think.
We're too polite, and a lot of them just don't pay attention at all. And I think you're right. Alberta can make Canada great again. And we shouldn't be holding this back. So you're familiar with the idea of maybe having a port in Churchill? And do you support that?
Yes, I do. 100%.
Do you think 100%. Mo and Manitoba can get behind that?
Eventually, yes, they will. Well, sometimes it takes a while for people. It takes a while for people to travel a map to the destination.
100%. And what would we need for that? Do we need any federal approval, or can we just, the three provinces, just team up and put together the project? I'm not sure if there would require any crossing of federal or Indigenous lands or anything like that, so I'm not sure.
Oh, it opens up that cat. You bet. Yeah, there's all forms of federal involvement would be required. The solution is a united provincial position will always trump the federal position. One of the things that I like about the PPC is the desire that the provinces take responsibility for their participation in Canada. It is not the federal government's responsibility. It is the provincial responsibility. And that is what we have been failing to acknowledge by continuously electing a form of government that will gladly take on the responsibility for us. Had we returned Trudeau and the Liberals to the dumpster back in 2013, 2015, things would be different now. Things would be very different right now. We wouldn't be living with what we're existing with. So this whole aspect, like the funniest thing was to see that tweet by Trudeau yesterday, that the federal government will match all your donations to the fighting the fire. I'm so sorry. Again, you realize the federal government is not matching any donations. The federal government is spending more of my tax dollars.
Correct.
Every time they say we are investing in Canada's future, well, you're telling me I'm investing in Canada's future. In what way? To what payoff? To what return? You're spending my money, not yours. This is silly that a man like Trudeau and his cabal of individuals would take out $38 million credit card or 38 million credit cards and max them to the max, and then go for a credit increase. Excuse me, there's no hope in that scenario. That formula doesn't work. It doesn't.
And is Danielle going to bring us back to 92, Section 92, Section 92A? Is she going to stand up and fight for that?
Eventually, that's going to have to be the. Let's call it what it is. It's going to be the final line. It was written in Section 92 was written in for this purpose.
And as Claire's pointing out, you're right. Taxpayers matching taxpayers, double dipping almost here. Okay. And look, is he doing that just to keep his popularity up? Is he pandering to his base? Does he care about the damages from the wildfire? What do you think his motive behind this is?
Well, first off, we know Trudeau really only cares about the height of the waves at Tofino. So the real issue there would be pandering to his supporters, those that enjoy that kind of things, those that do need the tax credit for donations. Mm-hmm. That's the other key there. Don't forget that's another game in and of itself.
So is he seeing support kind of erode, and he's kind of trying to work on that? Like, is this a response to maybe something else that's going on, that he is losing support? Because you don't go around pandering when you're at the top of your mountain. You only start to pander when you start to fall off. So is this maybe a sign he might be falling off support with his base?
It's a rudimentary elemental attempt at pandering. It's not going to work because people are seeing through it because it's ludicrous. It's wrong. It now becomes laughable. It's just laughing. You realize it's wrong. Like, when is this Gong Show going to end? When is this episode of the Canadian Benny Hill Show going to end? Right? Because this is what we've been living in. So do we see him losing power, and is there erosion within the Liberal Party of Canada? Absolutely. The old boys are getting tired. You know, they were kind of pushed out of the way 2013 to 2015. There's a lot of resentment there. And, you know, you tell me, how on earth could these supporters of his, those backroom Liberal boys, how could they be increasing their personal wealth to the degree that they're increasing it over the last 4 years? No, something's very, very wrong in the state of Canada. Very, very wrong in the state of Canada. And the real indicator for me was when Trudeau stated that Canada is the first post-national state.
Yeah, that was a bad one. And for me, it was when there was no CPC counter to basically the last 3 years. And what we're seeing now in Manitoba with this election coming up for Maxime Bernier, CPC looks like they're scared, not just their supporters, but the party itself. So sending Pierre out to canvass and to help. I don't even know the name of the candidate there for CPC, but to go out there and help him shows me that not only do they see that Maxime has a shot here, they're really scared of it, because this could be a purple wave for 2025 if this works out the way Maxime is working on it. Do you see the same thing? Do you see that maybe CPC sees there's some holes in their ship? They're big holes, and they're definitely starting to sink. And PPC is the ship that's there ready to pick up anybody willing to jump. Do you see that happening in Manitoba? And what do you think Max's chances are for Manitoba? Are they growing, or is the media being successful and they're helping the CPC with this one?
I don't think the media, the mainstream media, the legacy media, the prostitutes of the day are doing anything to really assist the CPC in their battle at Portage-Lisgar. The idea of the CPC parachuting in Brandon to that particular riding, local boy, but still not very well known nor very well respected from what I've heard. But the idea of parachuting in Pierre to do a pump is just an indicator, as you say, that the CPC is looking at this going, oh, okay, wait a minute. wait a
Yeah.
minute, there's something up here. And I like to point out to people that, even Max said it in his last email blast, that, in the 2 weeks running up to this announcement, the PPC garnered over $200,000 in donations directly to that riding to promote the PPC. Will Max take the riding? My hope is he will. The numbers are showing there's a really good chance.
Yeah.
The feedback from on the ground is what's most amazing, is that the people that are coming out to support the PPC and responding back that, yeah, this time they're probably going to be voting for Max, they're not mainly CPCs. They're liberals, they're
That's right.
NDPs, they're
Yep.
independents, and they're the part of that mystery 11 million Canadians that don't vote. They're now the ones that we're looking at. And as a
Mm-hmm.
PPC supporter, I've been completely opposed to the PPC CPC ad hominem attacks over Twitter and Facebook and other social media. That's not the battle. The real wedge is in the 14 MPs in Western Canada that fly the NDP flag, that co-toted Jagmeet Singh. They hold the real balance of power in Canada. The balance of power of Canada is held in Western Canada. And if
Yep.
we can start to convert those ridings, we start with Portage Lisgar, we start with another one. There's 6 this
Calgary
year in
Heritage.
total. With Kelly Loran's going for Calgary Heritage. You bet. I'll be going down to Calgary to help campaign for Kelly. I know him well. He's a good
Me as
man.
well. I'll be there
You
too.
know, so this is important, and it starts with one purple tie, one purple shirt. That's what's going to make the difference on that green carpet in the House of Commons. Let's turn it back to the House of Common Sense as opposed to the House of Clowns. That's the idea behind the PPC. So this is why I feel, if Portage Lisgar, the residents of Portage Lisgar, return Max return a decision to put Max into the House of Commons as their representative for their riding, he will fight for that riding. He will protect that riding, and he will bring attention to the rest of Canada to what needs to be brought attention to. And this is just the start. Now, every wave starts with a drop.
Mm-hmm.
It takes
And
one.
I agree with that. And I want to kind of address what John just said here. We'll get to Perry in a second too. But John, oh, sorry, I'm fighting with my chatter. So John says, if anybody else pitches PPC on your show again, you deserve a royalty check. Here's the thing, John. This wasn't planned. So I had Kelly on Friday, obviously, PPC supporter. And then I had Ian on Monday, who left the PPC party. So I thought we were going to hear a story about how the PPC party wasn't for him. But the story we heard from him was not only was it a great party, he'll go back. And then Joe, I didn't know was a PPC supporter. So what I'm trying to say here, John, is I'm reaching out to people that want to talk, but look at the influence PPC does have. I'm not seeking PPC people, but they're everywhere. And I think that's kind of the message here. The PPC might be the PPC voter this time around might be like the Trump voter in 2016. A lot of people are going to hit that button secretly and not even talk about it. And then boom, we're going to see some sort of support. I want to make a call out to Canada, especially in you in Manitoba. What do you have to lose putting Max in, even if it's just an experiment? It's a half term. You're not changing the prime minister in this election. You're not really changing anything in the House. So what do you have to lose? Either Max is going to do some great things or not. Give him a shot. It's a half term. It doesn't move the needle, but what you'll find out is what will a true opposition sound like in the House of Commons. What will he be able to ruffle? What feathers can he ruffle?
Yeah.
And he will. He's going to go in there like a fox in a hen house. All the feathers are going to get ruffled. And if he doesn't, vote him out in 2025. But if he does, he has definitely demonstrated what the PPC party is. So I'm saying to the people in Manitoba, come on, this is a calculated risk. You really won't lose a darn thing. It's either going to be status quo, which you're unhappy about, or let's give this guy a shot and see what happens. Kelly, too. I think Alberta, Manitoba, Oxbridge, I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but Alberta and Manitoba, let's get them in there because either they're going to sink or swim. And if they swim, that's swimming for Canada. So I say, give it a shot. What do you got to lose? What do you think about that, John? Or sorry, Joe, what do you think about that? There isn't like, it's not going to change the prime minister. It's not going to end the NDP coalition or agreement, but it's definitely going to change the House. So why not? Give it a shot.
I don't think it's going to be the Liberals that are going to be that upset if Max happens to wander into the House of Commons. Honestly, I don't.
Mm.
The people that are going to be most ruffled, the most freaked out, will be the old guard of the blue. Because don't forget, he left the CPC,
Yep.
calling it a corrupt party. So he looks at members of the CPC, specifically, I'm not going to name the names, but some people would know them. But in the CPC, there is corruption. Okay. And he called it out and he's proved it. Many of us know it. Okay. There's a lot of CNOs, conservatives in name only, that are, liberal light. Some are even NDP, some are even communist. Okay. In their mentality, in the way they proceed, the way they formulate their thinking. So the people that are probably going to be most ruffled with Max is going to be CPC, because he's going to ask the questions they're not.
Right.
And as the official opposition, it's their duty, it's their obligation, and they're not. So when one single purple jacket stands up and asks the question that Pierre won't ask, that'll be the day Canada wakes up. Right now, here's the thing. You also mentioned something else. If they do elect Max and he goes into Parliament and he doesn't do anything, what that's going to do is that's really going to indicate to a lot of us. So Max knows everything is riding on this, and if I know Max and I know him, okay, he's not going to let us down.
Exactly.
He's not going to let us down.
And that's kind of the point. Who else would be that loud and fight that hard? There isn't, other than Jordan Peterson. There's really not another Canadian willing to sacrifice their self personally this much than Max and Jordan. And Jordan's not running. So let's look at Max and see what he can do, because nobody's talking about any of the other candidates. Okay, that's obvious. Max is the main draw for this one, and he absolutely will have an impact from day one. So I don't see the downside. Like if I was a conservative voter in Manitoba and I was mad, I was going to use a different word there, about what's going on, nitrogen, this water stuff's coming down the line, the attack on farmers, even the convoy stuff, I would be looking for change. And PPC is exactly where I would put that vote. And I do think you're right that maybe the Liberals won't be the most scared of him initially. It will be the CPC. And I wonder if that's going to help the CPC fix their rudder. Will that maybe help that party fix its rudder a bit, having a good anchor on conservatism in there with Max?
Interesting comment there. I'm just wondering where that comment's coming from.
Well, if Max is in there, maybe he can help bring the CPC back to where they were, because they will have no choice, because they're going to be exposed vigorously within the parliament. So maybe Max standing up will help bring some of these conservatives back to conservatism. That's a bit of a silver lining, like maybe. I don't know, but if they don't, it's going to be a purple wave if Max is effective.
It will. Like, for me, it's October of 2025 is the important date. That's going to be the big fight for me post July of this year. Going forward on that 14-month adventure.
Are you going to run too? You're running as a candidate?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
My forte is organizational understanding, is strategic communications, relationships, as you know. I'm not willing, or especially in discussing it with my wife. No, this is not something for me. And plus, I'm at that stage of my life where I'll probably be able to make a bigger difference and a better difference in Canada by doing what it is that I'm doing at the level that I'm doing it at.
Perfect.
The future I have for myself also, I have a future plan that's a little bit different from politics. So that's not my forte. I have no problem supporting political candidates. I have no problem being involved in the process, but I'm not Minister of Parliament. No, that's not my. I'd run away from the position.
Yeah. And that's a similar to answer to Jordan Peterson when he was asked, and his answer was, I'm more effective on the spreading of knowledge and education, and that's what we are lacking on. So we do need our messengers still. So
Exactly.
I think you're making a good point there. You can actually be far more effective, not locked away in an office working on policy. You can be more effective in front of your microphone and continue with your current path. That's what you're saying there. Did I read that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. This way, I don't have to play the political correctness game. I don't have to go through that at all. I can be real. Again, going back to the authenticity of it, because I do
Mhm.
not see our current crop of 338 ministers of parliament as being authentic in any way, shape, or form. So I would rather, maintain my authenticity. I think
Mhm.
that would be, my inability to lie, because I haven't met a politician yet that hasn't lied, and I
Yeah,
refuse to.
yeah. Well, they say they don't. So
Well, I don't believe them.
is that not their first lie?
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
So, but, we talk about 2025, and if Mac's getting in, it's only half a term to 2025. At that point, would he stay in that riding or parachute to another riding based on the popularity movement? I doubt it. I think he would hunker down and grow
Mhm.
roots right there, because that would be the pinnacle of the sprout of the movement to turn Canada into what it needs to be. The real challenge, I believe, would be on the global stage between 25 and 29, when, even now I can project the outcome of October 25's election. More than likely, we will see a minority conservative government
I agree.
with a required coalition of oppositions, being the Bloc, PPC, scattering of Liberals and NDPs, and that it's going to be a tough, tough period. That uh, parliamentary session from 25 to 29. Then 29 is when things are going to get really interesting. 29 is the potentiality for perhaps another minority conservative government, perhaps a majority conservative government, but with an extremely strong opposition that would be formulated primarily of PPC and Bloc, because obviously the political party of liberalism and NDPism and Greenism, and I call them isms,
Mhm.
are going to go by the wayside, because they no longer are effective, no longer are they, you know, pertinent to the Canadian mosaic and the Canadian condition and situations at that time, because things are going to change drastically over the next 7 years.
Mhm.
For 63 weeks, my partner and I, Joseph Barbuda, we've been talking about what is coming. The economic collapse that's coming, the real estate bubble that's going to pop, the debt bubble that's going to pop, this creditism, people living on speculation.
Mhm.
This is all going to fall, and people are going to get hurt, really hurt. But Canada's in a unique position where we can help each other greatly, but we got to get positioned for it super fast. Now, do I think that Pierre's policies and Pierre's thoughts, and yeah, he's looking at trying to implement solutions, but trying to implement solutions in such a cancerous institution as Canada is today, it's going to take a long time for those to have any beneficial effect. The more the aspect, say, like for me, being a little bit more hardcore, immediate implementation of restrictions and issues on a global front, like Canada right now, we need to stop all money leaving this country to third world countries
Mhm.
for all these useless NGO organizations and all these useless programs across the globe that make no lick of difference, a spit in a day. We've got to take care of Canada first. I do this all the time. The first thing we need to deal with is desalination. We need to deal with fresh water. We need to make sure that clean, clear, crystal, healthy water is coming out of the taps of every faucet in Canada. That's the number one thing that we need to be focusing on, because with good water comes a good basis of good health. And
Mhm.
without health, we have nothing, because health is your wealth. And I look at our First Nations, and I look at my brothers and my sisters across Canada, and my heart really cries, because, they're living in abject poverty and desolation. And in Canada,
Mhm.
really, we have a problem, Canada. and we can solve that problem. We need to make harsh decisions that are to the benefit of Canada, that may, in the midterm, short term, might not be so good for the rest of the world. But hey, you got your problems in the rest of the world. We got to solve our problems here. And then once we got our problems solved and we turn Canada into what Canada can become, then you just watch what we can do for you.
I'm pretty sure I know where that problem is, and I'm pretty sure Jack Layton just rolled over hearing you say all that, because that's not the party he built, and that's the party that's causing this problem. So the NDP, I agree with what you said about 2025 and 2029, but I think one of the big surprises for some is going to be the crash and the burn of the NDP party in 2025. I think you're going to see a lot of people leave that party and head towards PPC, because there isn't a People's Party movement within the NDP anymore. It's not for the workers. It's not for the vulnerable. It's for the elite, and it's for whoever can give them the biggest check when they want something, which is currently the Liberal. So, do you agree with that? Do you think the NDP is going to have one heck of a next couple years leading up to 2025, given the current leadership's actions and how they've basically destroyed the whole purpose of the NDP party, which is opposition and fighting for people? It seems like both of those main reasons are gone. And do you think the NDP supporters are going to punish him for that?
Yes, 100%. Because he has taken his position as the Vice Prime Minister of Canada. And let me clarify that. We have a Prime Minister, we have a Deputy Prime Minister, and we have a Vice Prime Minister. Our
Right.
Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrissy Freeland, and our Vice Prime Minister, Jagmeet Singh.
Oh, sorry, you got that backwards. No, VP is Justin. Think about that, because he has to kowtow to Jagmeet right now, because he has all the cards. He can call that election anytime he wants. I think you're close. I think he is the one wearing the pants right now. Am I wrong?
Why would Jagmeet do what he's done unless someone's got something on him?
I think they promised him PM. There's a soundbite of him talking as if he's the next PM. I think they maybe are talking about NDP Liberal officially becoming one and giving him PM. I think that's what he thinks.
Oh, bring that one on. That'll collapse both parties almost overnight.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, we would be celebrating. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Yeah.
My thoughts though on it. My thoughts on it though is that they've got something on Jagmeet. That's my real thought, is that they probably got something on Jagmeet. This is what's brought them into this collusion, because that's truly what it is. It even questions into the legality of the relationship between the Liberal Party and the NDP party. It's in my eyes, I'll just look down the basic common denominator and I see it as treason. There's supposed to be opposition in the House of Commons, not cooperation.
That's right. That's their first and foremost. That's what they're voted in for.
That's exactly. That's their duty. Their duty, and duty means you do something whether you like it or not.
Now, I've spoken to some people from like deep in the NDP party. They are not happy, and if there was a way to, maybe PPC and CPC supporters get together and kind of join the NDP party and force a leadership debate or election, he would have trouble. He would have trouble. There's a lot of unhappy NDPers that are currently just coming along, but they don't want him. So I think there's going to be a big crash and burn. It was going to catch a lot of people by surprise, but not if you're paying attention. If you're paying attention, NDP is not doing their job, and this is what those voters put them in for. So I think there's going to be a big pushback, and you're going to see most of that end up in the PPC camp.
I'm seeing that now. Now. Just last week, we had a lady join the PPC and volunteered. She's now a member of the PPC, now part of our volunteer squad. She was a previous NDPer, big supporter of the NDP federally and provincially. But this year she voted UCP and she's moved over to PPC from NDP federal. And this is just a result of listening to common sense, reading the platform, common sense.
And another big segment we're seeing, and I'm saying we in the collective, as in, I'm not PPC, but as in journalism, like I'm talking to people, parents have said enough. Parents, nope, they're headed to PPC because there's nobody other than PPC standing up for the children the way they believe they should be. And you could
Well,
be left leaning. There's a lot of left leaning people I've spoken to who said, look, there's a lot of policies I agree with, but that one, no. And that one is enough for them to say, okay, anybody who is pushing that agenda, I'm not interested in. And the only one speaking, countering that agenda is Max. So he is drawing a lot of parents from the left as well.
well,
And the right.
you're a parent, I'm a parent. And
Yep.
as we know, most parents come to a point in their lives when they're looking at their children, and now it's their children that are more important than themselves. So they
Mhm.
start forward thinking. And
Yep.
do we see what today is going to be like in 15, 20 years for my child? This is the issue with society today that's too self-centered on themselves, not thinking of the future, not thinking of the generations to come. Because if you're not thinking several generations ahead, and if you're not respecting several generations previous, then what you're doing today is predicating the future generations to experience worse than what you're experiencing. So parents need to wake up and make responsible decisions for their future, and their future is their children.
Mhm.
So this is where we're seeing the number one movement is from the NDP over to the PPC, and from the non-voting bloc, and
Yep.
the liberals that are just dead tired of the stupidity that the direction that the Liberal Party is taking, especially as the expose of information comes from the Liberal involvement and corruption that's actually prevalent throughout all levels of government.
Mhm.
So there's a big movement of parents that are going to be moving this, and they see it every day. This Pride Month, which goes all Pride Summer, because you can even take a look at it. Sure, like I even look back to, let's go back to 2017. June 1st, 2017. Everybody was celebrating Pride. Like, I'm thinking primarily of Rachel Notley here in Alberta, promoting
Mhm.
Pride, promoting Pride. Well, guess what? She was still even tweeting it on a regular basis in September of 17. Same thing. It's Pride time. It's Pride time. Like, there's nothing but being force fed this. And now that
Mhm.
it's force fed into the schools in the elementary line, and the kids are bringing this home, and it's on TV, and it's on the internet, and all these internal problems, this lack of a moral and ethical compass that people have in their lives, is going to compel them to look for that North Star. That North Star is reality, it's rationality, it's reasonability. These are the things that the PPC are offering, and I think it's what Canadians want.
And we're seeing some other signs that are not cool. So, for example, Doug Ford used to go away and not be around during Pride Week or weekend or the parade. He is now confirmed he's going to be in the York one. And yeah, and now we have Danielle with her June 3rd tweet. Was it June 3rd or 5th? Maybe the 5th of supporting Pride. That came up on yesterday's episode. And I'm curious from your side, what do you think Danielle's doing? Did it hurt her? Did it help her? What do you think she's trying to do by showing support for the group, explicitly calling them out and supporting them? What is your take on what happened there, and why is she doing that?
Well, I wouldn't endorse the tweet, nor would I retweet it, nor would I agree with it.
Hmm.
As to the
But why
purpose
she do
behind
it?
it, again, we have to take a look at these politicians and their Twitter accounts. The question first remains, and you know this as well, that is it truly her thumbs on the keyboard?
No.
Was it truly her doing that, or was it her media coordinator, or whomever social media coordinator that does these things? We see this constantly with politicians. They're
Mhm.
they're pumping out a tweet or pumping out some kind of a social media post, and it's so bland, right? It's like it's the theme of the day, the candy of the day kind of thing. And I
Right.
believe that's what that was. In retrospect, perhaps the UCP needs to sit down and take a look at their media communications program and say, okay, we need to really roll this kind of stuff back. And I say it out loud. I say, just take a look at the ad buys. That's the real key. If you think, you know, if you think there's something really weird going on, the weird thing going on is government ad buys promoting this agenda. That's what really needs to be called into question. So Danielle tweeting that out on the 3rd, yeah, questionable. I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, was that really her? I highly doubt it. that was probably a media relations post or a media coordinator's post. And she's probably looking at this going, oh God, we got to draw this kind of stuff back because, it's going to affect the conservative vote here in Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
But it's after the election. It's after the fact. So she's in for 4 years. There's going to be faux pas. There's going to be mea culpas, just like, and to address some of the comments in the chat. Yeah, the earlier things that happened, the confusion and she said this, but hey, guess what? She has to feel her way through to find out where we're going, right? And then she has to figure out what's important. Well, what's important to what Albertans want and what's important to what Alberta needs is different because there's wants and their needs. And I think Albertans need to put their needs in the safe, their needs in the safe, lock it up. We'll get back to your wants when you want. We need to deal with our needs to get that clear again. We need to understand that needs are more important than wants. What you want is subject to after our needs are met. So we need to deal with our needs first, and Alberta needs to get back on the energy train. We need Canada to go in the right direction, and the direction Canada is going is not in the right direction. It's wrong. And personally, I'm getting a little tired of laughing at the direction that Canada is going, because not only is it so laughable as to be wrong, it is now at the point where it is so wrong, it is devastatingly crushing Canada.
Ludicrous.
Yeah, totally. Word of the day, ludicrous,
Yep.
But, and there, going forward, sure, the UCP is going to make errors. Danielle's going to make errors. She crossed the floor back then. Everybody's all upset about that. Yeah, well, if you understood what was going on in Alberta politics back then, you'd understand.
Yeah.
She went into the world of public broadcasting, being a radio host, exchanging with Albertans dead center. Everybody kind of got an idea where Danielle's really at, where her mindset's at, what kind of a person she is, right? Okay, well, this is part of whom she is. So you have to accept the whole, right? And I accept it because I've spoken with Danielle face to face, and I believe that she feels in the bones of her body that Alberta needs to move forward on the Alberta prosperity angle of things, that Alberta needs to take care of Alberta. And in Canada, in the confederation of our provinces, the provinces are responsible and obligated to do what it is that Danielle wants us to do. So how can I not support that? Do I want to support a premier that would, happily fly to Ottawa and submit themselves to Trudeau and allow a hard stop. That's why I voted UCP.
Yeah, we did as well. Now, my take on it was I had to think about it. So in yesterday's episode, it kind of came up. I had some quick responses, and I thought maybe she's trying to keep a door open to the community, trying to let them know that she's the kind of PM that they can talk to, or they can talk to her. But if that is what she's doing, and she's trying to do I believe if I sit down and talk to them, I can negotiate some of this. Maybe stop doing story time or something like that. And if I'm right, and that's what she's thinking, I'm sorry, Danielle, you're going to learn quickly that this olive branch is going to be hitting you back. There's some groups you can negotiate with. Okay, there's some groups that have a position, and if you're a crisis negotiator or otherwise, you can work it. There are some groups that there's just simply no negotiating with, because they will take your inch and take a mile. And if you give anything, they're going to come back harder next time because you've now proven you're willing to do that. I think this particular group is that type of group. There is no negotiating them away from the trend or away from their mission. There's only, can you slow them down or not? That's it. There is no going backwards with this group. And I think that might be a fundamental mistake on Danielle's part, if it was her approval that let this out, because she wants to let them know that she's willing to talk to them. So what do you think about that? Like, maybe she is okay with this going out because she wants to signal to them, I am somebody you can approach, but she just opened the door a little bit, and she doesn't realize that they're going to kick it open and then beat her with the olive branch that she sent them. Do you think I'm way off in left field on that one?
Slightly. And the reason why, and I'll unwrap it this way, Jason, negotiations predicate the fact that both parties are willing to discuss, willing to negotiate, willing to talk.
Mhm.
And on the one side, if this is seen as a well, let's look at it from the conservative point of view, is this an attempt to want to open dialogue and negotiate and try and find a common middle ground? Well, do we see that on the other side? Do we see that
Never.
willingness? Not at all. If
Mhm.
anything, is their way the highway, no other way. We
Mhm.
want it all. We want it all. There's the problem right there. It's a want, not a need. Where we're coming to the table with a need, we need to bring this under control. We need to actually bring this into, reality. We need to understand that, if just because you cut off your little bits doesn't make you what you are.
Mhm.
um, this is reality. We've got to get back to it. So, therein is the disconnect, right? There is
Yep.
no negotiation when someone's unwilling to negotiate. So, do I see it as an attempt on Danielle's part to try and keep the door open? Perhaps to acknowledge that, one cannot fail to acknowledge there is an LGB segment of society. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm one of the first to admit it. Yes, there are lesbians. Yes, there are gay. Yes, there are bisexual people. That is their lifestyle. That is their choice.
Mhm.
And I can live with that. Okay. Because that's yours. And yours predicates the fact that it is a private issue. Okay. But as soon as you add anything after that, or if you put things in front of it, because if you notice that little movement that happened, it went from LGB, uh, everything after that, to now it went to 2S
Preceding.
LGB.
Preceding. Yep.
Whoa, things kind of went sideways there. So, I've even talked to people in the LGB movement that, say what's been going on here is actually detracted from what we've actually achieved.
That's right.
So, like, now we're being lumped in with this, where, I know a gay man that, you would never know he's gay unless he told you. And yet
Mhm.
now he's lumped in with that. And he would never participate in a gay parade. He would never participate in any kind of a story. He's completely opposed to that,
Mhm.
and is, vocal about it when it comes up. And, he exposes, yes, as a gay man, I'm completely opposed to it, he says. Everybody's taken aback, And he goes
Yeah.
into the whole aspect of, it's indoctrination. It is the most, you know, insidious form of population control.
Yeah, because for a while, like at the beginning, and I think this is where people didn't have much of an issue, was the movement was to be inclusive, like just allow us to be in your society and ignore us.
When were
That
you
was
not?
kind right. Well,
That was
for
the
that movement,
response. Is when was that society never included?
well, there was a small time at least where there was some persecution against people that did that. But my point here is there was a push to kind of be left alone. But now the push is to make us special and tell us so. And you have to alter your life to acknowledge how special we are. So the push totally changed. It changed from we want to be inclusive in society. We don't want to stand out, and we don't want you to, point your finger and even really attack us. That's kind of where they were coming from. Now they want to take the stage front and center, say we're here and you have to accept us because we're special. And by the way, we want to teach your children this. Um, Now we're saying no, 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 no.
Here's the
It,
here's the sinister part. They
yeah,
are inviting you to participate in that lifestyle. So that's the indoctrination, that's the inclusion. They don't want to be included in our lifestyle. They want us to adopt and include their lifestyle.
yeah. And Padge has made a point here. The LGB community needs to be more vocal. And I think what she's saying there is there's a group within the group. Padge, I'm going to point out, I think the group really should be G because G is all of those. L is just a female version. Apparently, there is binary in this group because L is the binary version of G. And we do have a group called Groomers or Gays Against Groomers. So there are groups within this organization who are standing up and saying, no, these these had nothing to do with our movement, and these kind of things we actually stand against. So you're now starting to see this alphabet group start to split. And maybe that's why this 2LB whatever is being added to the beginning now. They're no longer amending it to the end. They're now changing the beginning. And maybe that's because the L, G, and B's are not the the main purpose of this mission anymore. It's whatever else we can throw in front, the 2L, whatever that stuff is. So what do you think about Paula's comment there, that there is a community within the community that kind of needs to stand up more? And what do you think about that community actually starting to gays against groomers?
They're making a difference because they're speaking common sense.
Mm-hmm.
They're calling out the ludicrousy, the idiocy, the sinisterity of what's going on. So I support, let's call it what it is, the G. Support
Mm-hmm.
the G, because the G are telling the truth. Anything other than the truth is an aberration.
Yeah, and as Tammy says, more and more come out every day, and this is like a second coming out for them. So there's the first coming out. Now the second coming out will be, look, I don't support where this group is headed now. So Tammy, if we're looking to any group to come out, it will be this one, and I believe they're starting to, and we're hearing a lot more of that.
I agree.
Yeah, so we're seeing, we started the show with Shoppers Drug Mart secretly, quietly dropping trends from all their messaging. We're talking about a G group that's pushing against their entire thing. We're talking about parents leaving parties that they used to be in, headed towards PPC. We're talking about a whole bunch of different cracks in this narrative that is really starting to happen. Does this fill you with optimism, or is this just one thing that we should grab onto and say, hey, look, let's let this motivate us, but the fight is far from over. We have to keep going. Where do you think we're at? We're getting close to ending this, or we're just getting started?
I think all the parts and pieces are coming together for the eventual ending of it. The ending isn't going to be pretty. That's what we've got to acknowledge in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
The end isn't going to be pretty. We have a generation of individuals that have been pharmaceutically impacted. We have a generation that has been surgically impacted.
Mm-hmm.
We have a generation that has been psychologically
left behind.
Yeah, left behind. We've allowed a society to be created around us that is antithetical to the purposes of society.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't see a good ending. I see a horrific ending. And, I started about a year ago really getting upset about MAID in Canada.
Yes.
Because the ultimate goal of MAID is, of course, exactly that,
Mm-hmm.
a reduction in population. And we see MAID being uniquely positioned in Canada to deal with our elderly,
Mm-hmm.
with our disabled,
Mm-hmm.
with our infirm, with our injured,
youth now,
and with our youth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got some 15-year-old, some 16-year-old that is going through gender dysphoria, that is being, maybe they've gone that route already. They've already taken the pharmaceutical route. Maybe they've already entered into the surgical route and they've mutilated themselves. What future do they have? We know that the suicide rate of transitioners is extremely high. We know that the detransitioning is tragic. And a lot of these people will take advantage of MAID.
Mm-hmm.
We already see people taking advantage of MAID for the most ludicrous reasons, where if our government were doing what it was supposed to be doing, if our society was supposed to be doing what it was supposed to be doing, if our churches would do what they're supposed to be doing, we would have a different society today. People that have these conditions and situations in their lives would be supported early enough in the situation so that they would be able to come to a proper decision on their life. There's ways to get through things without having to make major modifications to your body or to your psyche. Sometimes you just have to get real with yourself and get right with the world, or get right with God.
Right now, 4 out of 5 end of life by hand is government. They are outpacing normal rates. So you're not wrong. They had 10,000 just, what was the last year or the year before? And we even have the National Institute of Health, which is that group in the States that said COVID was good, the vaccine's good. We even have them coming out against Canada's maids, saying they recommend for minors, mature minors, whatever you want to call them, um, life affirming care. The recommendation is life affirming care, not anything else.
Have you heard
How
of
is it?
ADIFA?
No, go on.
Have you heard of ADIFA?
No, go on. A differ.
Assistance in dying from addiction. I would posit that you could count every overdose death as a result of safe supply to be part of the same agenda.
And they're not being counted right now, you're saying, under MAID. So it's a separate
No, they're
program that's
not.
also doing it. Oh my goodness. And of course, abortions are not put into this either. That's another number that's not included in this. So we have pre-life, uh, end of life care, we have end of life care, and we have any time in between end of life care now. And we also have an app that's going to get you there quickly. And we have a waiver on the 10-day wait period. So you're not wrong. This is 100% going after depopulation under the guise of humanitarian efforts. But this is not new, Joe, right? We've had this before. This is not like a Canadian thing only. We've had this before where societies were convincing people to end. Did we not?
Yeah, it's a tough one. The mind goes many places when it comes to
Yeah.
this topic.
So this one is one I'm making a whole episode on. I'm trying to reach out to a particular individual on this one. Maids is going to be something we can't be quiet about. We should be talking about this one. Bring back the abortion debate as well. And I only see one party doing any of this. And it doesn't start with a C or an L or an N. It starts with P. So this is yet another reason to be taking a closer look at the PPC party. And folks, I did not plan on any PPC rah rah rah. It's just happening that decent people with intelligent minds end up that way, and that ends up being what we talk about. Because it seems to be, other than independent candidates like me, PPC party is the only solution that's, or only party talking about this stuff. Joe, why is the Conservative Party so afraid to take on gender and trans issues head on? Why are they so afraid?
That's a really good question.
Their base won't leave. So what are they afraid of? I'm going to keep searching for that one. I'm going to be in Manitoba on the 19th. So during this max election, I'm going to try and go speak to CPC. And I did book an ex-CPC MP from Alberta, Ron Adders, if I'm saying that right.
Ron Adders? Yeah, okay, good
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on Monday, so he'll be on next Monday. So he's an ex-CPC MP. He is definitely against C-21 and everything else that's associated with that. Property rights, gun rights, all that stuff. So he's going to be on, because I'm trying to get, not just PPC, of course, I'm trying to get everybody. I can let everybody know that Rachel Gilmore didn't respond to me. Okay, she has no interest in talking. She did not respond to me, and I was super nice about it. But no, I don't think that's going to happen. I'll keep trying. But I am having a conservative MP on, an ex-conservative MP. So we're going to hear from him. Why is the Conservative Party so scared of really standing up for these issues? Because I'm curious. This is not like they would lose support, would they? Like, where are
I
we
don't think
at
they would.
yeah. Do we have like a lot of conservatives in name only in the party? Like, what are they worried about?
Great question. I'm going to be tuning in Monday. I'd like to follow up on that. And I'll be
Yeah,
asking the CPCers that I know when I'm in spaces. Yeah,
yeah. Why
it's
are
an
they so
interesting.
afraid?
Why are they afraid? Why
Mm-hmm.
won't they? Why won't they broach the topic?
Yeah, well, maybe I'm onto something that the PPC might become uh, the rudder mover for the CPC party itself. Like with the support growing, with Max winning this election, because I think he has a better than a 50-50 chance on this one. I think that might actually wake up. Not if not the party, the members. And the members might start moving to PPC if the party itself is not going to move that rudder. Well, Joe, I
Uh,
overstepped my conversation with you. I'm actually running out of time here, bud. That must mean we did a good conversation. So I'm going to wrap up here. And if you don't mind, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, spaces and stuff like that, and leave them with a message to let them know what is Joe working on and what can we see from you in the next little bit.
well, one of the main focuses that I've been doing for the last year has been podcasting, space casting on Twitter Spaces. I spoke earlier about, and there's lots of myriad platforms out there, lots of things to do, but I'm a focal kind of guy. I like to zero in on something and target it and head there. So I chose Spaces as the format for me to do what it is that I do.
Hmm.
So every Monday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I join with an economist out of Toronto, Joseph Barbuto from the Economic Long Wave Research Group. And we expose as much information as we can from the long wave scenario. Speaking of Kondratiev, Schumpeter, the formulators of modern economy that we are trapped in today. And those spaces have been going on for over a year. They're mostly recorded. Episodes 16 through 62 are available on my timeline on Twitter at Joe Rampart. A couple of episodes, of course, are not available because Twitter sometimes glitches and the recording doesn't happen. But I
Sure.
have downloaded those episodes, converted them, and posted them through my Buy Me a Coffee link.
Hmm.
I hold a semi-regular Canada Talks Tonight space on Friday nights, based on how tired I am,
Hmm.
and we invite Canadians across the board from coast to coast to coast to come and participate and have a conversation. And it's a conversation back and forth, bring up a point, and so they go on for a period of time, so 4 or 5 hours sometimes. I participate in other spaces on Twitter, just to bring up information, to promote Twitter, to promote spaces as a venue. Why do I like spaces? Well, again, it's the audio format, audio only format, where you can listen to this whether you're doing gardening, housework, dishes, feeding the kids, driving down the road, going for a walk. A lot of them are recorded, so you can listen to them at your leisure. They're interactive, they're live.
Hmm.
That's a key issue. Like, sure, this kind of a podcast is as well. You've got your comments, but you don't have the multiplicity of live interaction, and that's what I like about Spaces. So my message in Spaces has always been about information, about education, about illumination, elicification, and about bringing hope. And quite often, the message of hope I really want to leave people with are four key tenets of survival in today's world. And these key tenets have been around for 1990 years. And that is one, if we go about our day being kind, kindness is free, it's easy to do, it's so simple. Just be kind. Being kind allows you to be open to being compassionate. When you're
Hmm.
compassionate, you can feel and understand the world around you. It's okay to cry. When we're in a state of compassion, it allows us to be forgiving of those that transgress us and also to be more forgivable as we have transgressed others. In a world of kindness, compassion, and forgiveness, love abounds.
Yes.
Love abounds. And I find those four key tenets of kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and love, those are the foundational principles of the final commandment my Savior gave to me, which is to treat your neighbor,
Hmm.
love your neighbor as you would wish to be loved, to paraphrase such a man.
Yes. And to remind everybody, when you have all of that, you'll have strength, and the meek shall inherit the earth. And let's not forget that. And meek is the strongest one. Joe, thank you so much for that. And everybody heard that. He's on at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, which will be perfect as we end our show at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. You move on to Joe. Joe, thank you so much, my friend. And to those that are paying attention, Joe, we'll hear you for 15 minutes tomorrow as you join us on our Coast to Coast to Coast Canadian show.
I'm on tomorrow
So
with you?
you are 15 minutes in the morning. I'll send you that information today if you can still make it.
I've got a conference call at 8:30 to 9 a.m.
You're
tomorrow
good.
morning, so I'm good.
No, you're
So
good. Yeah, we're before that.
Okay. Send me a link.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
You got it, Joe. Thank you very much, Joe. And I'm going to say goodbye. Oh, sorry. I got to learn how to wait a second or two to make sure that they get their last comment in there. Sorry, Joe. I pushed that button too soon. Folks, that was another good episode. I really like talking to Joe. There's no doubt that he is one of the voices out there that is not just soothing to listen to, but it's very comfortable to the brain. For me, I don't get headaches. I don't have any problem listening to Joe. He's very, very good, and I really enjoy his time. So thank you all very much for being here today. Thank you again to Azario. You made this one sound good, buddy. Forever. I'm going to thank you on that one, my friend. So everybody, if you have any more recommendations for the show, I saw one there from John. I'm going to take a look at aspect ratio. I have some ideas there, but all of you, thank you so much for being here again today. It was another great show. And tomorrow is our Coast to Coast show, as you just heard with Joe. And then we'll have Donald Best on Thursday and Lee Vosen from Students Against Mandates on Friday. So with all that said, you guys have yourself a great day. And always remember, God bless.